Hi everybody, it's me Patrick with a quick lesson on how to write an impromptu speech. What I'll be focusing on today is how to write a 2 to 3 minute speech using 3 minutes or less of preparation time. For the purposes of this, you are going to have a choice of either using a single word, a quotation or saying, or a question to create your speech. In a moment, we'll do a sample of this. But first, let me explain how each of these would work. If you use the word, the thesis of your speech will contain that word. So, as an example, if your word was happy, your thesis might be, being happy is important. Now, if you decide to choose the saying or the quotation, then the thesis of your speech will become how you interpret that quotation. So if I gave you the quotation, don't worry, be happy, your thesis might be, we need to let go of all of our troubles. The third type of impromptu you might give is from a question, and you'll be given a question that will basically be a question of opinion. So, for example, if I asked you, should cell phones be banned in college classrooms? Your thesis would be the answer to that question in a full sentence form. And it would sound something like this. Cell phones should be banned in college classrooms, or cell phones should not be banned in college classrooms. So, those are the three types of speeches you might get. What we're going to be using is standard speech structure, which I will show you right here on this note card that I've created. You'll notice that the introduction is made up of an attention-getting device, a whiffum statement, which is the what's in it for me statement. That tells us the audience relevance. The thesis statement, which is the main idea of your speech, and a preview of main points, which I have shortened to POP. That's where you're going to tell us what main points you're going to cover. For the purposes of this speech, you're going to have two main points. So you'll have the body of your speech, which includes main point number 1, a transition between your two main points, and then main point number 2. And then below that, you'll find our conclusion, which is made up of a review of main points, where you're going to recap the main points you talked about. That's called a romp. You're going to restate your thesis, and it's quite important that you state your thesis in exactly the same way that it was stated here. And then finally, a catchy closer in which you will wrap up your entire speech. So that is the structure of your speech. Now let's get to choosing a topic. I have a card here with three things on it: a word, a saying, and a question. Here you go. The word is school. The saying is, when your dreams turn to dust, vacuum. And the question is, should the United States continue to stay in Iraq? So, those would be your choices. When the time begins, you'll have the card, and the first thing you should do is choose one of those three areas. You should choose very quickly, in 10 to 15 seconds at most. In fact, sometimes if you read the word and you know you can make a speech about that, you don't even need to read any further. You should stop reading the card as soon as possible and just choose one of your options, because you don't want to use valuable time just trying to decide. Go with your gut. So once you've chosen, the second thing you should do is to write a thesis. Again, the thesis is going to be based on whether you choose a word, the saying, or the question. If I chose the word school, my thesis might be, school is important for everybody. If I chose the saying, when your dreams turn to dust, vacuum. What I might say with this is that we must continue to follow our dreams. If I chose to do the question, should the U.S. continue to stay in Iraq, my thesis would be either the U.S. should stay in Iraq or the U.S. should not stay in Iraq. So those are your thesis choices. Of course, there's a lot more flexibility if you choose the word or if you choose the saying. But no matter what you do, make sure you choose very quickly, because the thesis needs to come very, very fast. Probably under 30 seconds, you should have a thesis all ready. Once you create your thesis, you should then create two main points. The main points should support your thesis. They should tell us why is your thesis true. So if I said school is important for everybody, I have to create two main points that support that fact. And I might say school is important to get a good job, and then also perhaps school is important to broaden our minds. Those might be my two main points. If I chose when you're for my thesis from the When Your Dreams Turn to Dust vacuum, that we must continue to follow our dreams, I might say the reason to continue to follow our dreams, for first of all, is because if we fail to follow our dreams, we will only find sadness. And second, we will never achieve dreams if we don't continue to follow them. If I chose, should the U.S. continue to stay in Iraq, again, my thesis would be they should or should not stay in Iraq. Let's just take the position that the U.S. should not stay in Iraq. And number one will be a thesis might be because the Iraqi people want to start governing themselves. And a second reason might be because we need to get our American troops home. Okay, so those would be my main points for those three speeches. Next, you should come up with an attention-getting device and a catchy closer. Your attention-getting device should be something that will grab our attention. It could be a story, it could be a quotation, it could be a fact. So if I were going to say, school is important for everybody, I might tell a story about me going to school. Or I might remember a movie where I saw somebody getting an education, like Good Will Hunting. If I chose you should always follow your dreams, what I might do is I might bring up, again, a story. Perhaps I might talk about Randy Pausch, who did a speech about following your dreams and how he followed his dreams no matter what. If I chose the question about how should the U.S. continue to stay in Iraq, I might give a fact about how many people have died in Iraq, or perhaps I could give a fact about the government structure in Iraq currently. So these are all things I could do for my attention-getting device. Whatever you choose for your attention-getting device as a shortcut, you should use for your catchy closer. So if I chose a story about myself for my AGD, my attention-getting device, I'm probably going to talk about myself again for my catchy closer. That way you don't have to spend time thinking something totally different. The next thing you need to think about is your Whitford statement. What's in it for me? Why should the audience care? So you need to think about, why should my audience care about this speech? And if it's about school, you might say because we're all in school, we should be concerned with this. If it's about dreams, you should say we all have dreams and we should continue to follow them. And if it's about Iraq, because we spend billions of dollars, we need to be concerned about this situation. So that's your entire speech, because your review and your preview and your transition are simply coming out of your main points. Now what you're going to do is you're going to spend the remainder of your time writing out your note card and kind of thinking over in your head how you want to say this. Because remember, you're not going to have any time to actually practice the speech. You're going to have to get up and give it on the fly. Something you're going to want to think about is if you're going a little bit on the short side, you're going to want to elaborate inside of your main points. You might need to spend a little bit of time explaining why your main points are true. You don't want to just say the main point and move on to the next main point. You want to give a little bit of substance in the middle of those main points. So that's our lesson today in doing impromptu speeches. This is exactly what you might see in my class. You'll see a card with 3 things on it, and you'll have to choose one of those 3 things. Ideally, in under a minute and 30 seconds, you will have prepared your speech, so that gives you another minute to a minute and a half in order to get ready to deliver the speech mentally. Don't spend too much time on these parts. You've got to go with your gut, because that's what impromptu speaking is all about. Thanks for watching my video. Have a great day.